Today, we have another special guest. We have Benton Crane, who is the CEO of the Harmon Brothers, which are the creative force behind some of the major advertising commercials that you all know and love, with including Poo-Pourri, the Purple Mattress, Squatty Potty, just to name a few that have all gone super viral. And they are just major creative forces, and we're really happy to have him on the show. So welcome, Benton.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Carl. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Now, although you're not one of the quote unquote Harmon brothers, I believe you're a cousin, correct?
That is correct. So there's actually 6 Harmon brothers. 4 of them are partners here at the agency, and 3 of them are original founders with me. So the 3 of the brothers and I partnered up back in 2013 to do the Poo-Pourri campaign. Was the original campaign. And yep, I'm a cousin. I grew up with them. We're entrepreneurial from the time that we were little kids, selling potatoes door to door. And so we just grew up as great friends and business partners. And it's been fun that we've got to continue that into our adult lives and into our real careers.
That's amazing. When I think of that much family, I just imagine people, like fighting and pushing each other and yelling over each other. Is it a little like that at the agency, or is it more organized?
It's interesting because, it doesn't get heated often, but it can get heated. And when it does, we're not afraid to go toe to toe with each other and kind of, get passionate about, something that we feel strongly about. And when that happens, some of the non-family part of the company, which is most of the company now, they can witness some of those interactions. And initially it can be a little scary, like, whoa, are these guys about to go to blows? Are we going to have a fist fight here? Which, of course, back in our teenage years, we had plenty of those. But now we don't fist fight anymore. We'll just get passionate for a minute. But we've developed relationships of trust to the point where we all know that we can get passionate like that. Things can get heated for a minute. We can have disagreements, but we don't take it personally. We leave the personal attacks out of those. We just make it about business, about the decisions that need to be made. And you get heated for a minute, and then once the conversation's over, you end up making a decision, you get aligned with it, and then we're happy to go grab lunch together, and it just becomes water under the bridge. So it's worked out for us. I know working with family isn't for everyone, but for us it's worked great, and the level of trust that we've been able to build between us has made for a great business partnership.
Oh, that's tremendous. Congratulations. That's quite a gift in life to be able to work with family so successfully.
Yeah, it's been great.
Benton, what's been your big creative leap that's helped take you forward?
It's interesting. In my role, I find myself leaving the creative leaps to my team for the most part. I'm surrounded by many creative giants, many creative geniuses. And so, so much of the work that Harmon Brothers is famous for, I don't take credit for, for the brilliance behind it. But there are a handful of areas where my creativity and my contributions to those projects do get a shine through. One of them was on our Purple Mattress campaign, the egg drop test, where we dropped that giant sheet of glass onto the mattress with the eggs glued underneath it. That was a test and a demonstration that I got to develop, and I kind of got to engineer that whole thing. And it was interesting because when we embarked on that project, Purple had they had shown us an egg demonstration where we just put an egg on a cushion and then sat on it. And we all kind of like oohed and awed, and wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. But when we got out the cameras and actually filmed it, it was a huge letdown. It was like, okay, put the egg down there. Someone sits down, egg disappears, stand back up, egg is still there. And for the camera, it might as well have been a camera trick or something. It just didn't leave the viewer with that ooh and ah moment. And so we had to figure out, how can we make that same demonstration work on camera? How can we actually show it happening? And that's why we ended up using glass, was so that the camera could see the egg the whole entire time, even when it was, buried in the mattress. So that was an instance where my creativity got to shine through. Another one was on our FiberFix campaign, when we threw cars off the cliff to demonstrate, the strength of the fiberglass, the FiberFix repair tape.
Absolutely. Awesome.
And I'm a redneck at heart, and I grew up working on cars and loving cars, and so getting to actually take cars and chuck them off of a cliff, that was a dream come true. And so once again, that was kind of a big demonstration that I got to kind of engineer and orchestrate, obviously with the help of a team around me. But that was a major contribution that I was able to make on the creative side. So those are kind of two of my favorites.
Perfect. What has been one of the leaps that you've had to make that might have been a bit on the scary side, but you ended up being so glad that you made that to level up?
I worked at Deloitte Consulting, which is, for a lot of people, that's a dream. It's it's kind of a pretty major milestone in my career. And in many ways, I quote unquote had it made, or, was on the path. I had a great career, worked for great clients. I lived in the Washington, D.C. area, and, I had a nice house in the suburbs with a yard and a fence, and, life was great. Life was fantastic. And I left all of that to partner up with Jeff and Neil and Daniel Harmon on the Poo-Pourri campaign. And all we had was a 6-month contract to do some marketing for Poo-Pourri. And then anything beyond that was, it was unknown. We didn't know what the future held. But I knew that video marketing online was going to be a big deal. And I knew that the brothers had pioneered much of that during their time at Orabrush. And I knew that they were out ahead of the rest of the curve. And so I wanted to join up with them because I could tell something special was brewing, and I wanted to be a part of that something special. And so, thank goodness my wife went along for the ride and played along and didn't mind the scariness of leaving, a great job and a great home and a great community to embark on the unknown. And admittedly, those first 2-3 years we went through some tough times. There was a lot of lean time, a lot of hard times before things really started to take off. And now I look back, and that one decision was probably the best decision of my career. I'm so grateful that I made it, and I don't regret it for a second. But at the time, it was scary, and it came with hardships. There was even one point where things got so lean that I had to go drive Uber for a while. I was one of the first 5 Uber drivers in Provo, Utah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's intense, man. Congratulations on making that leap and it being all worth it.
Yeah. When you're in the middle of it, sometimes you question yourself. You're like, hey, I used to work at Deloitte, and I had great clients, and I had a great life, and now I'm driving Uber, and I'm hauling, some snot-nosed bratty college kid to the train station or something, and I'm like, what have I done with my life?
Well, that's well done. Amazing. Well, I'm curious about your vision and mission at this point, because I know that you all have some major successes under your belt, and I'm sure that you're doing great work right now. Everybody looks towards some of the previous work, but I'm curious about what's happening now in terms of vision and mission for you all.
Yeah, our mission is to share better stories. And that has a lot of layers of meaning for us. Some of the layers can be about, we want to share stories that make our clients better. We want to share stories that are better than we've ever shared before, constant improvement. We want to share stories that are better than anything our competitors are sharing. We want to stay out in front, be innovative. But we also want to share stories that just make the world a better place. And we feel like advertising is just one medium through which we can do that, but it's not the only medium. And so we are actually we're working on our first TV series, our first original content TV series, and we're really excited to get to flex our storytelling muscles in a new format, and we're really excited about that, and eventually we even want to get into feature films, and there's no better format for storytelling than TV and film, and that's where we want to be. That's where we want to get to, and that's what we're working towards.
Outstanding. I appreciate you sharing that. Have you decided on a brand name yet? Have you finalized one? For the show or for TV show?
Let's see. I'm not. I can't share just yet. Where the ink isn't quite dry on the licensing deal that will make this final. But we're going to be building a TV show based off of a series of books.
Wow.
Can't just yet, but stay tuned, stay close to follow us closely, and that news should be coming out in the very near future, because the ink is almost dry on that one.
Okay, I'll check back in with you when this gets published, and maybe we'll be able to put up a link to it.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. Well, sharing better stories to make the world a better place, that really resonates with me. Do you have that in some kind of a message where you can provide some quick tips on how one might do that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. As human beings, we are wired to communicate through stories. If you think about our ancestors, the way that information got passed down from generation to generation was through stories, right? You can teach through stories. You can convince through stories. You can motivate. You can inspire. Those are all things that happen through storytelling. And so whether you want to educate somebody, or whether you want to get them aligned with a cause, or maybe you just want to sell a great product or a great service to them, storytelling is hands down the best form of communication for that. And as humans, that's how we're wired to remember information. You can think back to your school days. Like, if you just get out a textbook and read a scientific principle, the chances of that scientific principle like landing in your long-term memory and sticking there and becoming something that you remember, if you're just looking at the principle, it's not very likely. But if you have a story that illustrates the principle and makes it real and makes it meaningful, then all of a sudden it lands in your memory and it sticks. And advertising is the exact same way. And so that's why we try to use story in the way that we sell. We love to follow Donald Miller's format. Donald Miller is the author of a book called How to Build a Story Brand. And he outlines how you can take the hero's journey, which is a story format that is probably one of the most famous and successful story formats in history. You can look at like IMDb's top 100 movies, and I don't know the exact number, but it's something like over 80 of them use the hero's journey format. So movies like Star Wars, Hunger Games, and you can just go on and on and on and list hundreds of movies, and they all follow this hero's journey format. And,
nice.
And Donald Miller outlines how you can take that same format that is proven to work so well, and you can apply your marketing messages to that. And that's what we like to do with our ads. And so you can look at Squatty Potty, Poo-Pourri, chat books, Camp Chef, the list goes on and on. And you can see this same hero's journey that plays out every time, where the hero is the customer, the brand character is the guide. So think if you're talking about Star Wars, the customer is Luke, the brand character is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then the product or service that you're selling is the Force, right? It's this tool that the hero uses to become successful in their own journey. And so you can go back and look through all of our famous ads, and you can see that playing out over time. And that's part of why our ads are so memorable. They're so shareable. It's tapping into that story format that we as humans remember so well.
That's outstanding. It's always nice when you can tell a story through Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most famous stories of our generation.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your story, specifically around your own why. So how is this message and this vision aligning with your why?
That's a really great question. And believe it or not, I am still going through the discovery process of finding my why. I think I have elements of it uncovered, but there are still I'm still on a discovery journey, and that's interesting because everyone who comes to work at Harmon Brothers, I always ask them what their personal why is, and a handful of people know it right off the bat. They're like, oh yeah, this is my why. I know what it is. But the majority of people are still kind of to find out what it is. And so I'm always comfortable with this idea that we're still learning what that is. And so for me, I've uncovered a couple of parts of my why. One is that I'm a problem solver, and I am driven, just passionately driven by the opportunity to solve problems. It lights me up. It ignites a fire in me. And I kind of really discovered this as a teenager when I got really passionate about cars, and I started working on cars and fixing cars. And it turned out I was really, really good at it. And I actually ended up dropping out of high school to focus full time on fixing cars. And I started going to these auto mechanic competitions. Believe it or not, they hold competitions for auto mechanics. And,
nice. Interesting.
Yeah. It's surprising, but I won first in the state of Utah, and so then they sent me to Kansas City, Missouri to compete at the national level, and I took second place in the nation, and I ended up winning thousands of dollars of tools and scholarships and all this stuff, and it became this really, really great launch pad for my career. But it taught me this skill set of how to identify a problem and then diagnose a solution for it. And that same skill set I've been able to apply to all sorts of different areas of my life, and in the business world and the marketing world, I'm able to apply that skill set over and over again. And so this idea of problem solving is a huge, huge part of my why. And then this other part of my why is I'm very driven by like, just for lack of a better term, just freedom or liberty. Ever since I was a little kid, I always hated having other people tell me what to do or how to do something, or being forced to do something a certain way. Even as a little kid, I always appreciated when my parents or my teachers or whoever it were would give me the liberty to just do something how I wanted to do it, and to explore and to learn. And I genuinely believe that when you trust people to do things, people are inherently good and people are inherently smart. And when you trust them and you free them to go be them and to do them, they do amazing things, and they perform in amazing ways. And so we've built our company, the whole Harmon Brothers company structure is built around that idea that we can trust people and we don't need to micromanage them. We don't need to dictate how they do things and when they do things. We let people manage themselves. We let people use their own creativity. And that's deeply baked into my DNA. And like, I believe in that so wholeheartedly that part of my life's why is to kind of promote and push this idea that humans thrive in freedom, and when the opposite is true, I believe that negative results happen when freedom is taken away. And so I feel very passionately about those two things. So those are parts of my personal why.
Oh, that's outstanding. Well, we have a star mechanic in our midst as well.
Well, 15, 20 years ago. So
I'm just teasing, but that is really cool. That must have been great for your confidence to just crush that. You had a passion and you just absolutely nailed it all the way to the national level. That must have been really an exciting journey.
Yeah, it was a huge confidence builder, and it was a great, great springboard for the rest of my career.
Makes perfect sense. Well, that's great. It's good to get to know you as a manager as well. It says a lot about your management style and the admission that you're still getting to know your why. I think everybody, I think 100% of people can at least identify with that. Even if they feel really confident, we're still growing until the day that we stop.
That's right.
And pass from this world. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to explore your vision for the future and making the world a better place. And with the work that you're doing, how does that all transcend?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's
very lighthearted, right? Very light question.
Yeah. So there's the near term kind of easy answer, and that is that we always try to choose clients that have products or services that really solve problems, and in solving problems, they make people's lives better. And it can sound lighthearted, but things like the Squatty Potty have actually improved millions of lives, and in doing so, we've contributed to making the world a better place. It sounds silly, but like Lumi deodorant, for instance, it's a natural deodorant that actually works. And there are many people who, for various health reasons or whatever the case may be, they can't use the chemical-based deodorants, and so they need a natural deodorant. But it's so hard to find a natural deodorant that actually works. They end up, having their social lives and their confidence are impacted in negative ways. And so to have a deodorant that actually solves that problem for them is literally life-changing. And I know that sounds silly, but we actually believe it, and because we believe it, our passion shines through in our marketing and our storytelling. So that's the easy part of that answer, is that we just have to feel passionate and really believe in our clients and what we're selling, that it will make the world a better place. But then longer term, in terms of we're moving into television and eventually movies, we think that is such a great format to promote messages that uplift and that inspire and that encourage people to be their best and to do their best and to help others and to contribute to society in positive ways. Like, there's so much where you can build and uplift, and I feel like there's a lot of good out there, already out in the entertainment space, but there's also a ton of entertainment that frankly isn't uplifting. Be it whatever it's based around, violence, there's just, I don't need to go into it, but we've all experienced it, right? You can consume a lot of media that you walk away from that media and you don't feel uplifted and you don't feel inspired to go out and do good in the world. And so as we go into, our storytelling, tell better stories, that's a huge part of it, is we want to tell stories that inspire people to go out and do good and make the world a better place.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate that you all have such work that's fun and it's funny, it's lighthearted, and of course the storytelling. But I think it inspires a kind of creativity and positivity that the world really needs. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Okay, perfect. So Benton, before we wrap up, do you have any ask for our listeners? Any final thoughts?
No asks, but, for any of the listeners who, might be in a situation where they're curious about how to market like Harmon Brothers market, we created a program called Harmon Brothers University, because we have about 100 companies reach out to us every month, and we can only work with a tiny percentage of those. And so rather than just kind of ignoring everyone and just kind of turning everyone away, we decided to build Harmon Brothers University to basically open up our playbook and say, hey, this is how we do what we do. And we cover things like, how do you write a script that sells? And then how do you build humor into that script to make it humorous, or to make it shareable, to make it fun? And then how do you film and edit so that you're still focused on the sell, but you're bringing in those elements of entertainment and fun. It covers all those types of things, and it even goes into, how to launch a campaign, how to test, how to optimize all of those types of things. And so, if any of your listeners are interested in learning more about that and would like to explore that, HarmonBrothersUniversity.com is where they can check that out.
Fantastic. They should absolutely do that. Would encourage everyone to do that. And perfect. Well, Benton, before we go, what's the best place for people to learn more about you and to reach you?
So I am most active on LinkedIn. So please jump on LinkedIn, follow me, send me a connection request. That's the best place to stay in touch with me. I post there regularly and try to keep everyone in the loop as to what I'm working on.
Beautiful. Absolutely. That sounds great. Well, Benton, again, thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Carl.